The beta test for Diablo IV was an excellent, albeit small, taste of what's to come in June. I got to play through the entirety of Act 1 and enjoyed every minute of it. You can check out the live stream here. After 12 hours of testing things out, I would like to share with you a few of the gameplay mechanics to expect when Diablo IV finally comes out. Now, everything I'm talking about will most likely be in the final release, but are subject to major changes. This was just a beta test after all. One of the biggest changes to the Diablo playstyle would be the introduction of an open world concept to play in. The initial map for Act 1 was huge. I had a lot left to explore after hitting the temporary level cap and completing Act 1. There were multiple towns I could visit and teleport to after activating the way gate on my initial visit. In between towns would be hordes of monsters, random events, and even other real players. When next to another player, a buff would proc, increasing experience gain by 5%. That would double if the other player and I were in the same party. There are also dungeons, cellars, and strongholds to explore. Cellars usually had an elite pack inside, very quick to clear. Dungeons were bigger with small objectives inside, ending with a boss. The big reward from dungeons would be aspects for putting on gear, usually class specific. I will go more in depth about imprinting aspects later. And strongholds usually opened up into a new town after clearing. Most of the game was a progressive system keeping enemies the same level I was, but strongholds were a couple levels higher, making them much easier to take on with a group. Not impossible to solo, just more difficult. Every act zone in the open world would have a renown meter I could fill up. Renown would be gained by discovering new areas, completing quests, and a few more things. After hitting a certain level of renown, I was always rewarded with gold, and then something like another potion charge or even an extra ability point. The rewards would be given to all my characters. A new character could still work towards the gold, but ability points and potion charges were permanent. Another thing affecting all of my characters were Lilith shrines. Those could be found all over and permanently added various stats. And also in the open world would be a timed world boss. It only spawned a couple of times over the weekend and I was not able to see what that was about. I believe after taking it out, a weekly cache full of rewards could be obtained. It showed up as a marker on my map for a second, but I never saw it again, so there may be a nice tracking system to hunt down the world boss. To move around in the big open world, besides teleporting, there will be a horse mount available. Sadly, it was not brought into the beta test. Word is the quest to get the mount isn't available until level 30, but we'll see. From what I could see at the stables, there may be multiple mounts available and different customizable items to put on them. At the very start was an okay character creation, much more than what has been available in the past for a Diablo game. After selecting a gender, I could pick a face type, a skin color, and various tattoos and makeup. It's usually kind of hard to see my character, but it was cool to see what I made during cutscenes and stuff. There will be 5 classes available at launch. I played with the rogue mostly, and a little bit with a sorcerer. The skill tree was made up with main nodes covering core moves and other specialty skills depending on the class. As a rogue, I could specialize in melee or ranged attacks. The sorcerer could go with fire, ice, or a few other different spells. What I really liked about the skill tree was how easy it was to respec. For a small price, I could take a point out of anything and reapply wherever I wanted. Testing out different builds on the fly was a lot of fun. If I found some gear that really buffed a specific skill, I could change things out wherever. It wasn't necessary to be in town to play with my ability points. Near the end of the tree will be the ultimate attacks, but I could only select one at a time. Not a big deal, considering it would probably be way too overpowered to use all of them. Transmogging was available after I got to the main town, but getting the looks of a piece of gear is a little different than it was in D3. Instead of just finding something, I had to actually salvage the equipment to unlock the look. When visiting the wardrobe, after salvaging some gear, I could apply the look to my character. After getting everything the way I liked it, I could save that set, and for a price, I could buy more slots to save even more sets. After applying the skins I liked to my gear, they would persist through equipment changes, so I didn't have to apply it to every new piece of gear I found. I loved not having to go back to the wardrobe if I found an upgrade that looked lame. Legendary items have been changed up a bit. No longer will there be named legendaries with fixed stats or abilities. They are instead regular items equipped with a random ability that can be moved to other items once. In town, I could talk to the occultist. They were in charge of imprints and enchantments on gear. I could extract an aspect from any legendary I found and place it on a rare item, making that item a legendary. But I could not extract the aspect once it was imprinted. So after I was done with a legendary item and extracted the aspect, it would be in my inventory, allowing me to save it for later if I wanted. I could also put an aspect rewarded from a dungeon on specific pieces of gear. Those aspects could be imprinted as much as I wanted. All pieces of gear could be upgraded at specific vendors around town, even my potions. The jeweler upgraded jewelry, obviously, as well as combining my gems to higher levels. They could even add sockets to my gear so I could place gems inside. And the blacksmith would upgrade everything else. Gear could be increased 4 levels, with each level adding more defense or attack, as well as increasing the random stats rolled into them. All it took was some gold and various materials found from enemies, or nodes around the world. It seemed like the income of gold was not very high. I had to decide between salvaging my gear for materials or selling them for gold. A lot of gold was used to upgrade and imprint my gear. It was tough to keep up. If the level cap wasn't 25, I would probably avoid spending too much on upgrades and wait until I was closer to the real level cap. Finding upgrades was pretty easy as I leveled. If you are familiar with the Diablo series, you should have no problem picking this game up. There were a lot of lessons learned from the creation of Diablo III to now. The majority of loot I found was rolled towards the class I was playing, ability-wise anyway. The gear rolled all sorts of different stats like int, dex, and strength, but they all had uses for my character. There is now a dodge skill with a small cooldown that can be used to move out of the way of incoming attacks. It came very useful in some particularly tough boss fights. I couldn't quite decide if I liked the new potion mechanics or not. Instead of having one potion with a long cooldown, I had so many charges. At specific levels, I could increase how much HP the potion heals, and through the renown system, add more charges. So now health orbs don't drop, but potion charges do. Keeping my health up was more manual than it was in the past, so I had to keep a closer eye on it. I really enjoyed my time in the beta test. Even though it was short, I can't wait until the full release in a few months. I've been a big fan of the Diablo series for over 2 decades, and imagine I'm going to keep playing for many years to come. I'm not going to place this on a shelf yet. This wasn't a full game experience, but keep an eye out. June is right around the corner. Lilith and her denizens of hell will be here before you know it, and I will see you there. Bye!